Today we're getting into the latest Tesla news, including Tesla price increases coming soon, Cybertruck price drops, the tax credit going away, and more, so let's get into it. First up today, the Model Y Juniper refresh is expected to be right around the corner, coming in early 2025. This refresh will bring everything the new Model 3 has, but is expected to change the front and rear even more than before. Here we can see another one was spotted in the US, covered up, and it shows us a few things. As it drives by, we can clearly see that it is not sharing the same headlights as the Model 3 refresh. Instead, they are extremely thin, and most expect this to be a light bar sweeping across the front bumper like we saw with the Robotaxi prototype. Here's a great render of what is expected both in the front and rear. Many are hoping for that full light bar, but some also anticipate that it instead could look like this car on the right. Maybe it will still have that slim light up there above the true headlights. I think the light bar is probably a pretty solid guess at this point though, especially since Tesla wants to start implementing some of what they've shown off with the Robotaxi. Some other details we can see in this sighting include the rear camera being higher than before, and a license plate clearly mounted to the cover and not the car. This further signals their shift to putting this plate lower and changing up the rear design quite a bit. Up front as well, Tesla is clearly covering up a front bumper camera. This is something the Cybertruck now has and the Robotaxi has. Tesla even showed this in initial renders of the Model 3 refresh, but didn't ship it with it. It's a great feature to have and will help improve FSD, parking, and general visibility. It seems the Model Y Juniper may finally get it as well. I'm particularly excited to see this refresh, and it will likely lead to a big increase in demand for Tesla. With that said, it may come in quite a bit more expensive for a few reasons. The US elections are officially over, and regardless of your political beliefs, the outcome is surely going to have a big impact on the future of the EV industry. The Republican Party now controls both houses of Congress and the White House, and they've made it very clear over the years that the EV tax credit is likely to go. Even though Tesla has majorly benefited from this tax credit over the years, Elon Musk has actually come out in favor of ending it as well. There are a lot of reasons behind why this is, and while it may sound confusing on the surface, let's discuss what the ramifications of ending this tax credit could mean for both Tesla and the industry at large. We can't know for certain how long it will take before this tax credit would be eliminated, but once the new administration takes charge in January, it's likely not going to last long. As such, we're likely going to see a pretty big spike in demand for EVs for the remainder of Q4. There are a lot of customers who may have been on the fence about purchasing, but will want to buy soon to take advantage of the tax credit. If that $7,500 was the deciding factor in whether you would buy an EV or not, and you qualify, you should probably order sooner rather than later. I expect that most brands across the industry will actually see a boost here for the remainder of 2024. As it stands right now, Tesla and the entire EV industry all stand to benefit from the existence of these tax credits. It makes EVs more attainable to the average customer while allowing them to sell the cars at prices with better margins. However, in the current market, Tesla is the only US auto market that actually makes money on their EV sales. While the tax credit was a huge boon to the company for a while, the truth of the matter is that they no longer are reliant on it for their success. Don't get me wrong, they definitely use the tax credit since it is there, and absolutely advertise that it exists, but they won't miss it nearly as much as their competitors will. Like I mentioned, every major EV maker in the US currently loses money on every EV that they sell, even if that tax credit, in theory, allows them to keep their prices up. If they want to remain competitive in the new marketplace, EV prices will definitely have to come down, and that will only hurt their margins even more. Tesla will also likely have to drop their prices as well, and while it will definitely make a dent in their bottom line, they will still be able to stay profitable. That's ultimately the name of the game here, and this could do a lot to push Tesla even further into the lead, while other automakers might not be able to compete at all. Additionally, with their shift into autonomy, robotaxis, and robotics, Tesla might not feel all that threatened, since they expect a lot of their future income to flow from things aside from auto sales. That still has a lot of time to come to fruition though, so vehicle sales will continue to be their primary business for the time being. In practice, this move could mean that come 2025, Teslas get $7,500 more expensive, or even more. In fact, with the introduction of the Juniper Model Y, I do expect demand for the Model Y to increase, and as such, Tesla will likely remove it from the referral program for a time. They're known to do this until production is ramped close to or beyond demand again. So in that case, for qualified customers, the Model Y may get about $8,000 more expensive in 2025 if the tax credit disappears at the same time they introduce that Juniper Model Y. Beyond that as well, Tesla has inventory discounts right now, sometimes up to $3,000. So we could see a Model Y coming in 2025 at almost $10,000 more expensive than you can get one today. With that said, if it does decrease their demand, they will likely respond with price drops as much as they can. It's their main strategy when needing to sell more cars. While this change could definitely be advantageous for Tesla, I do wonder how this will impact the EV industry as a whole. If making EVs starts to become too large of a financial liability for these companies, we may see them pivot away from EVs even more than they already have. Competition is necessary for the health of the industry, and losing out on potential vehicles made by these automakers isn't going to be great for consumers. Even if Tesla continues to make the best EVs on the market, people have their preferences, and having a healthy competitive market is the best for consumers. With that said, if that competition isn't actually able to make a profit on their cars, then they weren't really competition in the first place. Ultimately, we'll have to see exactly what happens to this tax credit and what impact that will have on the market. Getting rid of the tax credit will likely be fine for Tesla, but the rest of the industry could definitely suffer as a result. I'm very curious to see what will happen going forward, but what do you think? Will getting rid of the tax credit be a net negative for the industry, or will they weather the storm? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Next up today, Tesla is officially rolling out leasing options for the Cybertruck. This is a pretty big move and is another big sign that they are ramped on Cybertruck production and need customers. Recently, we saw Tesla end the Foundation Series Cybertruck in the US, introduce the normal priced options starting at $80,000, and add the Cybertruck to the referral program, which gets you $1,000 off. Now, leases have become an alternative purchase option through Tesla, with rates starting at $999 per month. It's a very strategic move aimed at boosting demand and giving more people a chance to experience the Cybertruck without the upfront cost of a full purchase, especially with interest rates where they're at today. For those already familiar with the Cybertruck, this leasing option could be exactly what they've been waiting for. By making the Cybertruck accessible through leasing, Tesla is reaching out both to die-hard fans and curious first-time EV drivers who might not want to commit fully to ownership right now. Here, you can give the Cybertruck a try and know that if it massively depreciates over the next few years, you are somewhat paying Tesla to take that on. Leasing starts at $999 per month for the all-wheel drive Cybertruck, with standard core wheels that offer a 325-mile estimated range and the tactical gray interior. Prices increase from there if you swap wheels, swap interior, or pay for FSD. This particular pricing is also with $7,500 down for 36 months with 10,000 annual miles. For my area, when adding in Tesla's estimated taxes and fees, I'm actually looking at about $12,101 due at signing and $1,111 per month. If you instead want to upgrade to the Tri-Motor Cyberbeast, you're looking at $1,148 per month with a 320-mile range on the stock wheels. For my area, when including taxes and fees, this actually becomes $12,394 due at signing and $1,275 per month. So this still definitely isn't cheap, but if you're simply looking at a monthly payment, you're saving a lot compared to financing your Cybertruck purchase. Of course, you have to give this truck back in 3 years, but for some, leasing is actually the perfect recipe for them. It will definitely make this truck more accessible to some and generally worthwhile for people in this price range. Still, we're awaiting the rear-wheel drive standard range version of the Cybertruck, which Tesla says will come in just under $61,000. That will make a big difference for the starting price on this truck and likely will help them access another group of customers who are waiting. It's important to remember that Tesla's large queue of orders for the Cybertruck was for a truck that was supposed to start at $40,000, so it makes sense that many people haven't proceeded with their orders yet. It was also heavily delayed, so many likely opted for a different truck entirely. At the same time, some customers are also likely waiting to be officially qualified for the tax credit with the Cybertruck, which could happen soon, but as we just discussed, also may be entirely disappearing in 2025. I just purchased one of the last Foundation Series Cybertrucks a few weeks ago, so again, I'm kicking myself a little bit as to the timing here, but overall, I do plan to keep this for longer than 3 years anyway, so I don't think the lease would have made the most sense for me. Only time will tell, though, as things change. At this point, I expect Tesla to continue lowering the Cybertruck's price in time, and the advantage that they have there is that they can. They are profitable on the Cybertruck, which can't be said for any other electric truck on the market. Next up today, Tesla has for a while been one of the most American-made car companies out there. Due to their heavily vertically integrated nature, they are able to produce a great majority of the parts for their vehicles internally. This helps to keep costs low, contributes to local economies, and keeps Americans employed. NHTSA has just released their recent filings on the most American-made vehicles for 2025 models, and unsurprisingly, Tesla remains at the top of that list. For all of their vehicles, the majority of the necessary parts are produced in the US and Canada. The rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive trims of the Model 3 are their most American-made cars, and are actually tied with the Honda Ridgeline for first place overall, with 75% of their parts being made in North America. Next on the list at 70% American-made is the Performance Model 3 and all available trims of the Model Y. These cars share the second place rank with a few of Honda's other models, but it's still an impressive statistic nonetheless. Then the Model S and Cybertruck come in at 65% and the Model X at 60%. These figures are all very impressive and go to show how much Tesla has really committed to local production, especially when some other companies are as low as 1% American-made here. Regarding the Cybertruck, it's worth noting that this vehicle is not actually the most American-made truck at this point. That title belongs to the previously mentioned Honda Ridgeline at 75%, according to this chart. Still, the Cybertruck sits at a very comfortable second place and is considerably far ahead of trucks made by other American companies, like the Sierra EV at 36% and the F-150 Lightning at 29%. This is ultimately the case for a lot of other car makers that are considered ironically American, with many vehicles made by the Big Three being very low on this list. It's very cool to see Tesla sourcing internally so much like this and to see the impact that this has. It will be very interesting to see if those percentages can go even higher from here, as they bring even more production to local factories and are spearheading a lithium refinery plant in Texas. There is a lot to be excited about here, and I'm interested to see how things move forward. Next up today, we've seen a huge number of incentives and deals come from Tesla lately as they push to expand their sales across the world. 0% financing is actually one of the most lucrative deals that the company has been known to offer, as it can dramatically impact how much you will pay for your car in the long run. Over in China, Tesla has been offering this no interest rate deal for a bit now, and they have actually just extended it even further to drive sales. As we progress further into Q4, Tesla has their eyes firmly set on breaking their all-time delivery record for that quarter. Their current guidance is to deliver 515,000 vehicles in the fourth quarter of this year, which is over 30,000 more than last year's record-breaking performance. Part of the key to reaching that goal is to further drive sales in China, the country which represents their largest market. In order to promote sales there, Tesla has really been leaning into the 0% APR incentive, and it seems to be working well so far. They just extended the promotional period for this deal, and from now until November 30th, customers who put down an equivalent of $11,000 can get a 5-year 0% loan on a rear-wheel drive or long-range all-wheel drive Model 3. Based on their financial reports, it seems like Tesla can continue to comfortably offer this deal because they just made some huge improvements to their gross margins in the last quarter. Since they are making more money on every car sold, it makes sense that extending this promotion to break their delivery sales record would make more sense. We'll have to see how successful this promotion continues to be and whether Tesla can meet their delivery guidance for this quarter. China is Tesla's biggest market, but it also is the market in which they face the widest and steepest competition, so we'll see if it's enough to get them over that hurdle. Last up today, some updates from other automakers. In an exciting development for electric vehicle enthusiasts as a whole, Volvo has just announced that its EV models are now compatible with Tesla's extensive supercharger network. This move comes as part of a growing trend in the EV industry, where traditional automakers are aligning with Tesla to grant their drivers access to the largest and most reliable fast charging network in North America. Volvo's partnership with Tesla means that owners of its fully electric models, like the XC40 Recharge and the C40 Recharge, will now be able to utilize over 12,000 Tesla supercharger stations across the US. This is particularly beneficial for Volvo drivers who may have experienced limited fast charging options, especially in more remote areas, or experienced third-party charging woes. Tesla's supercharger network is renowned for its coverage and speed and reliability, and is considered the gold standard for EV charging. Starting shortly, Volvo's EVs will come equipped with Tesla's North American charging standard port, allowing seamless access to supercharger stations, and for current owners, adapters will also be made available. This collaboration highlights this shift towards standardization in the EV industry, with Tesla at the forefront. As more automakers, including Ford, GM, and Rivian, join forces with Tesla's charging infrastructure, it signals a new era of convenience and accessibility for EV drivers. Speaking of GM though, a few years ago, GM made headlines when they had to recall about 142,000 Bolt EVs over a potential fire risk posed by the car over a faulty battery diagnostic sensor. Now, a few years later, Chevy is issuing a related recall of some of the same vehicles, albeit much smaller this time. NHTSA has just released a recall for 107 Chevy Bolt EVs and EUVs of model years between 2020 and 2022 that were previously repaired under the previous recall. A small percentage of the originally affected vehicles received a new component with faulty diagnostic software meant to determine if the battery is defective. This could pose a big fire risk if something were to go wrong and that battery was charged to near 100% capacity. Chevy dealers will install the software at no charge to customers, but until it is fixed, NHTSA encourages affected users to charge up only to 90% to try to park outside after charging and to avoid going lower than 70 miles remaining. According to GM, the company isn't aware of any fires that were caused as a result of this fault, so this recall is purely preemptive. This recall will only affect a very narrow group of Bolt owners, but still it's good that it was caught early and with no one getting hurt. The Bolt has been recalled many times over the years, and hopefully this will be the last time on these particular models. At this point, that car is discontinued and will be likely relaunched on the Ultium platform. Honda was one of the major legacy automakers that was the slowest to really commit to full electrification. Market pressure forced them to adapt, however, and fans of the brand were excited to see them bring their Prologue EV to market earlier this year. Since then, the vehicle has already been doing quite well and is making a decent dent into the EV market. In fact, in Q3 of this year, the Prologue rose up to become the 5th best-selling EV in the US with over 12,600 sales during that period. This car is already beating out popular models from other brands like the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and Rivian R1S. As it stands right now, the Prologue is only behind a few other models, including the Mustang Mach-E, Cybertruck, Model 3, and in first place, of course, the Model Y. For a point of comparison, the Mustang Mach-E is in 4th place in the US at 13,392 units sold for Q3. The Prologue is pretty close behind that, and we could see it quickly rise to take that spot from Ford. This vehicle did see some pretty steep discounts that helped to account for that sales incline. Most trims of this vehicle are also eligible for the $7,500 EV tax credit, as well as other incentives, which brings its starting price down from $50,500 to a low of $39,900 in some cases. By most accounts, the Prologue is a pretty solid EV option, and we could see it become even more popular in the near future. Kia is one of the many brands that is working towards bringing a truly affordable model to market. Now they're looking to do it with the EV2. This compact SUV was first revealed last October during the Korean automaker's EV Day event, where they teased a lineup of electric vehicles across the price spectrum. They didn't reveal a concept for the vehicle at the time, only that it was in development and that they were aiming for a price of around $30,000 in Europe. This vehicle has been long awaited by many looking for an affordable way to electrify their ride, and now we are getting our first look at this car on the road. This model was spotted out in Korea under wraps, so while we can't get a clear look at all of its design elements, we do get a pretty good idea of its overall shape. It features the same boxy design as many other Kia EVs, as well as the new Star Map LED lighting. This car is expected to ride on the Hyundai eGMP platform, which should enable it to travel around 300 miles on a single charge and charge from 0 to 80% in about 30 minutes. This would be a really great range for a vehicle that starts at just $30,000 and would surely be very popular as a result. At the same time, Kia is also rolling out their EV3 sedan, which currently starts at around $40,000 in Europe. It's a very exciting time in the realm of more affordable EV options, and I can't wait to see which ones come out first and at what price points. Kia could be a really strong contender if they can bring these vehicles to market soon and at their targeted price. That's all the latest Tesla news for today, so in the meantime, if you want to see a full guide to buying a used Tesla, you can check out that video linked up here or in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.